Hello everybody and welcome to another episode of Tech Motoring. On today's episode we're going to be going over how to save money by utilizing the sun, and I'm not talking about solar panels, and how my fourth month with solar went. So we'll take a look at that shortly, so stay tuned, we'll be right back. Alright everybody, welcome back. Now the first thing we're going to go over in this episode is how you can save money just by utilizing your window blinds in your home. And what I mean by this is actually changing the angle of your blinds to allow more sunlight in or less sunlight in, depending on the time of the year. So first, let's jump over to that. When we get back, we'll go over my solar bill for month number 4.
Now typically on this channel, when we discuss ways of how you can save electricity, we're normally talking about things that you can change out, like light bulbs, things you can turn off, or appliances that you can change out in order to save extra money. But what happens if there's something else you can use that could save you money throughout the year? Something that you don't plug in, or something that you don't really have to install. It's something you probably already have in your home. And those are your blinds. Now, a lot of people may not realize, but in the summertime and even in the wintertime, these can actually become a huge asset to heating and even cooling your house. And something I want to show you today is a very simple tip to make sure that you are getting the most benefit out of the sun. And I'm not talking about solar panels, I'm talking about just the sun. And what I'm going to show you today is a simple thing that you can do with your blinds in order to save money. Now that we're starting to get into the colder months of the year, it's always more beneficial to save some money on your electricity, or if you even use gas or oil to heat your home, to use the sun's rays instead of your own heating. And a quick example of what I mean by that is by using your blinds accordingly. Now, during the day when the sun is out, you would actually want to have as much sunlight coming into your house as possible. And if you want to keep your blinds open like they are right now, you get the maximum amount of sunlight to come in. And when the sunlight comes in, it will heat up your home. Now you can keep the blinds all the way open, or if you want some privacy, you could keep them like this, where they are mostly open coming in. And also keep in mind that the better the angle towards the sun that they are facing, the better your heat will be when the sun comes through. So keeping in mind that on this type of angle, you want to make sure it is aligned with the sun as perfectly as possible to get the most amount of heat benefit from that. Now, if it is the summertime, what you can do is you can actually just face these the other way. And if you put them on an angle like so, this will actually block a lot of the rays that come into your house. Therefore, your air conditioning will not have to work so hard to keep your house cool. It still allows light in, but it also stops a majority of the rays from the sun from penetrating into your house. So this is a fantastic way of stopping your electricity bills from climbing even in the summertime. So now that we talked about that, let's head on back and talk about my solar savings for the month.
Alright, well there you go. As you can see, just by changing the angle of your blinds can greatly reduce your electricity costs if you use electric heat in the wintertime, or reduce your costs in the summertime by not having to use your air conditioning as much. So always keep that in mind the next time that you leave your house. You can always keep your blinds open or keep them closed depending on that time of the year. Save yourself some extra money in the long run. Now let's go ahead and move on to my solar bill for the 4th month. Now the month of October was a very calm month. We didn't have much hot weather, we didn't have much cold weather, so air conditioning was used very minimal and we didn't use the heat at all. So as we start rolling into November, we are probably going to start needing to use the heat a little bit more. However, at this point in time, we have yet to use heat. So we are going to be going over my bill for October and see how much we ended up saving. Alright, so first things first, we always start with the big number. How much energy did we produce? Now, keeping in mind that we are starting to roll into shorter days, so as we move later into the fall, we are going to start seeing shorter days, which means less sunlight for us to capture with our solar panels. Now that being said, what we were looking at this month was actually fairly decent considering how much we actually were able to produce with these shorter days. So in all, we produced 574 kilowatt hours of energy. Of that 574, we actually sent back 413 of it. That is a big chunk of electricity that we ended up sending back to the electrical company. And once again, if you haven't seen any of our previous videos, you can go ahead and hit this link here. That'll bring you to our playlist for solar, and that'll give you a rundown of all my previous videos, including the installation if you go back to the first one. So as you could tell, we sent back a lot of power to the electricity company, unfortunately only getting about 1/3 of its cost, which is only about $15.86, but we'll go over that a little bit more in the future. Which means we only used about 161 kilowatt hours of our solar during the day. Now, the reason that seems so low is because number one, we really weren't using any type of HVAC during the month of October. And number two, because we are typically home from work and then it's already getting dark out. So therefore we don't have the chance to actually utilize much of the solar before it actually gets dark. Alright, so moving on to the extra fees. Once again, if you don't remember, take a look at some of our previous videos. Our electricity company in our area that supplies us actually has some fees because you're a solar customer, and because of those fees, we end up having to pay a little bit more for being that solar customer. Once again, something I completely disagree with. I really believe net metering should be something that goes throughout the United States. There should not be a way for electricity companies to take advantage of customers who have solar and to charge them extra because of it. But until that happens, here's what we have. So we sent back 413 kilowatt hours. That equated to about $15.86 credit on our bill. We have that solar metering charge of $2, and then of course the standby kilowatt hour charge fee, which once again, I disagree with. $25.26. That's all dependent on the size of our solar system. Hopefully that's something they'll do away with in the near future. So that means that out of pocket with our credits and how much we have to pay for that standby fee, we had to pay $11.40 back to the electricity company just because we are solar. This is not telling us how much we have saved by having solar. But once again, because we're getting to shorter days, we're not going to be saving as much anyway. Mostly on the weekends when we're home, but primarily during the week when we're away from work, pretty much everything we produce is going to go back to the electricity company, other than a couple things that might be turned on during the day, like the refrigerator and so on and so forth. And then here's the breakdown of the bill. So we only had a consumption of 334 kilowatt hours for the month. That equated to $33.30 worth of electricity costs, which is really nothing. However, there's that standard customer charge every month of $19.50. Moving on to their adjustments that they give you a couple bucks back every month. The fuel adjustment was $3.68, demand sales adjustment 71 cents, economic development adjustment 7 cents, and then of course that $11.40 fee that we ended up having to pay from the previous slide. All in all, our bill came out to be $59.74 for the month of October. Now, $60 might seem pretty low, and it is a fairly low bill. However, we could be saving so much more had we not have to spend all that extra money on those extra fees just because we're solar. Once again, I definitely think this is something that needs to be fixed. This is not fair to people who are solar customers and who are actually trying to do something good for the environment. Now, I do have something in the works at the moment. Right now, I am in discussions with the company that installed my solar panels to potentially put a battery, a full home battery in the house. And what this would provide us is actually power to the house when we need it if the panels cannot produce enough. And what that means is during the day, if we are using more than the panels produce, we could be running off of this battery. Or at nighttime, when the panels aren't producing anything, we could be running off of this battery, which means that we would be spending a lot less money on our electricity bill every month just for the sheer fact that we wouldn't be having to pull it from the grid as much. On top of that, all this electricity that we are sending back to the grid and back to the electricity company, that's only given me about a third of the cost of electricity, we would be able to turn that into power to charge the battery. So the solar panels would be charging the battery, and then the solar and the battery would be powering our house, almost completely off the grid in some circumstances. And actually, some people in the United States actually do this. They rely on solar and batteries to only power their home. And typically this happens out in the Midwest, where you don't live as close to power stations or power lines, and sometimes you just have to have a battery system and solar to make up the difference. And with this case, I am definitely interested in possibly doing this. Now, we haven't gotten to the point where we've heard prices or anything like that, but it's definitely something that I'm looking into doing for future benefit, for not only cost savings for me, but also a way that we can use that electricity more efficiently. In the future, when I decide to get an electric car, which is in the plans, eventually I would like to do that, I can actually be charging that electric car off the solar and off of the battery, pretty much nullifying the need to ever have to pay for fuel to drive a vehicle ever again. So that is the future hope, that is the future endeavor currently. I hope you enjoyed this video. Hit that subscribe button if you haven't already, especially if you're into solar, battery backups for home. We're going to be doing a lot on this stuff in the future. Electric cars, absolutely. So hit that subscribe button, give the thumbs up to like the video. Don't forget to check us out on our website, techmotoring.com, on Twitter @techmotoring, facebook.com/techmotoring. Once again, I'd like to thank you for watching. And remember, welcome to the future. Welcome to Tech Motoring. We will see you on the next episode.